Chief White House Correspondent Major Garrett has been following the Trump campaign since day one and is here with me now. Major, just walk me through the next few days for President-elect Trump.
Symbolically, this meeting at the White House tomorrow will be a visual stunner for everyone, even Trump's supporters. I mean, think about it. Donald Trump is going to pull up to the White House. A White House Marine and aide will open the door. He will get out and go in to see the President of the United States as President-elect of the United States of America. It is hard to describe how improbable that was, considering where Donald Trump began his campaign. Even at some of the heights of the primary season, people thought, well, he might get the nomination, but boy, what a long shot to become President of the United States. And even a month ago or 3 weeks ago, Trump supporters, his inner circle, were deeply doubtful about the prospects for this campaign. It wasn't until about 2.5 weeks ago that they began to say, wait a minute, maybe things are gelling, maybe they're coalescing for us. So tomorrow is, in every way, shape, and form, visually going to be arresting, historic, jaw-dropping, and troubling to some Americans, let's be honest, and a source of elation to other Americans. There will be very different emotional reactions to what we're going to see tomorrow. So that's the visual, peaceful transition, respectful accordance of the majesty of the White House. That's all part of the ceremony of American life, and it's deeply important to the institution of the presidency. And then he's got work to do as far as his transition. He's got recommendations for cabinet positions. He's got a timeline to prepare himself and those who he will appoint, not just the cabinet, but sub-cabinet agencies, positions. And they've got to follow that timeline pretty rigorously to be ready on January 20th to be the next president of the United States. They've got to get legislative issues resolved with members of Congress of the Republican Party. What are they going to prioritize? What comes first? And a lot of promises hanging out there. Immediate repeal and replacement of Obamacare. That's not possible. You can't do that immediately. That's a multi-month process. Donald Trump's going to have to explain that to his supporters. Hey, why isn't it happening instantly? Because the legislative process, even with Republicans controlling both chambers, is slow. It's a methodical thing by law. Can't speed it up. Donald Trump tries to speed it up. Well, suddenly he's in the middle of his first crisis. So all those things have to be understood, absorbed, and then maybe at some point in the future communicated.
Major, you mentioned cabinet positions. Do we have any sense yet of, the names when we look at the inner circle here?
So look at the people who were on stage last night. That's a very good early indicator. Jeff Sessions, first endorser in the United States Senate from Alabama. He can have whatever he wants. He may not want anything. He may want to be in the Senate and be the eyes and ears for the Trump White House in the United States Senate. That's not a bad place to be. But if he wants a cabinet position, I think it's open to him. Newt Gingrich has been mentioned, and I've confirmed that he is under consideration for a couple of things. The one most prominent, which sort of surprises me, Secretary of State. But that's out there. Rudy Giuliani, certainly someone on stage, aggressive, willing surrogate for the Trump campaign for many months. Attorney General is something that comes to mind, having been a former U.S. prosecutor, a U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of New York. Chris Christie comes up. There are problems there. There are two problems for Chris Christie. One, he has two aides very close to him convicted in Bridgegate. Plus, he himself, as a U.S. attorney, put someone behind bars very close to Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, his son-in-law's father. That is a significant impediment, I am told, to Chris Christie getting a high-level position in a Trump administration. Because Jared Kushner will probably not have an official title, but he will be among the most important voices in Trump's kitchen cabinet, which will be comprised primarily of his family. And then one other name, Steve Mnuchin, who was Donald Trump's finance chair. I've heard him mentioned as the next Treasury Secretary of the United States.
A lot to watch for here in the coming weeks. All right, so Major, before we let you go, remember this moment. As we watch this, of course you do. You remember this. Now, hear his walkout on Wednesday morning. I wonder what your thoughts are at this moment in time. I remember during the primary season, you said to me on CBSN, for Trump supporters, this man is like a lottery ticket. People don't know that they're going to hit the jackpot necessarily, but they are willing to take the chance. What are your thoughts right now?
They're willing to take the chance, and the chance is not as distant or mathematically improbable as a lottery ticket in their mind. They believe that Washington needed to be so shaken up and so rattled by an outside presence that Donald Trump was the quickest elixir for what dissatisfies them about Washington. And as Trump continued to be so different from every other kind of politician, even controversial, even sexist, even in some people's minds racist, xenophobic, they were willing to forgive all of that for the larger aim of rattling Washington, D.C. and the Beltway culture, special interests, lobbyists, people who work in a White House and suddenly work for a big lobbying firm, members of Congress. It all feels so inbred, so close to each other, but distant from the country. The Trump presence and the Trump promise of scaring all that straight was worth almost anything. And they would accept almost anything in exchange for that. And that dynamic never changed. It never, ever diminished. It is the one constant I saw for Trump supporters throughout this campaign. And when the time came, and all of us in the political science community, the polling community, the journalistic community, looked at them and said, so, are you going to show up or not? You know what they said? You're damn right we're showing up. And we're going to defy you, the odds, the polls, expectations, and we're going to put this guy over the finish line. And then we'll find out. We'll all find out together. But we took the chance when nobody else would. And this wholly unusual figure in American political life, he's never even been a mayor of a small town. I mean, Grover Cleveland is an unusual American president. He was mayor of Buffalo. Then he became president, then governor, and then president, all in 4 years. That's a big trip. That's a quick trip in a long distance. Trump doesn't even have any of that, okay? So his improbability is without precedent in our country's history. And it tells everyone who was in Washington before yesterday, you better pay attention. Republican, Democrat, whatever. Trump is a force, and how you vector off that force will say a lot about your own political future. And that's exactly what Trump supporters wanted to have happen.
Major Garrett, thank you for all these many months of your insightful reporting. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.